The distress signal reached every corner of the Galactic Council within minutes of transmission. The Varith system burned under the invasion of the Kryndax swarm, a hive-minded species that consumed entire worlds and left nothing but stripped husks floating in the void. 14 billion souls cried out for salvation as their planets fell one by one. The Council convened an emergency session. Representatives from 100 worlds gathered in the Great Chamber, their forms diverse, but their expressions uniform. Fear mixed with profound relief that the swarm had chosen someone else this time. The Virith delegate, a four-armed being named Telos, stood before them with trembling limbs. "We have lost 3 colonies already," Telos said, his translator rendering his clicking speech into flat standard dialect. "Our defensive fleet is shattered. We have perhaps 2 orbital cycles before the swarm reaches our homeworld. We invoke Article 7 of the Council Charter. We beg for aid." Silence answered him, the kind of silence that crushes hope. The Drexian ambassador shifted in her crystalline seat. "The Kryndax are formidable. To commit our forces would risk your forces?" Telos interrupted, desperation cracking through diplomatic protocol. "You have 300 warships in your home fleet alone. We ask for 50, 20, anything." The Barathi representative, a gas form in a containment suit, spoke next. "The logistics of moving military assets across 12 sectors in 2 cycles is impossible. By the time you arrived, we would be grateful for vengeance, if not rescue," Telos said. "Is there no one? No one at all?" The council chamber remained silent, not because they lacked the ability to help, but because the Kryndax were too dangerous, too unpredictable, and the Varith were too far away to matter in the grand political calculations of the core worlds. Then a new voice cut through the quiet. "We will go." Every sensor and eye in the chamber turned toward the human delegation. They sat in the corner where newer council members were relegated, having joined the galactic community only 40 cycles prior. Ambassador Marcus Cole stood, his simple blue uniform stark against the elaborate garments of the older species. The Drexian ambassador made a sound like grinding stones. "The humans? You have been part of this council for barely a generation. Your species controls 3 systems. What could you possibly offer?" Cole met her gaze without flinching. "We offer what we have. Our fleet. Our soldiers. Our word that we will not abandon those who call for help." Mocking laughter rippled through the assembly. The Barathi representative's translation software rendered his words with undisguised contempt. "Your entire military force numbers fewer than 60 vessels. The Kryndax have consumed empires. You would be throwing away your species' future for strangers." "Perhaps," Cole said, "but we will do it anyway." Telos stared at the human, compound eyes glistening. "You would truly come, knowing you might not return?" "We would," Cole confirmed. "And we will arrive in time." More laughter followed them as the human delegation departed to make preparations. The council moved on to other matters, already composing the memorial statement they would issue once the Virith and their foolish human allies were consumed by the swarm. The human fleet entered the Virith system 18 hours later, 3 hours before the swarm was projected to reach the homeworld. Telos watched from the Planetary Defense Center as 62 human ships took formation in orbit. They looked almost fragile compared to the massive bioships of the approaching Kryndax. Sleek where the swarm vessels were grotesque. Small where the enemy was numerous. A communication request blinked on his console. Telos opened the channel to find a human woman in black armor looking back at him. Her name tag read Commander Grant. "We have established a defensive perimeter," Grant said without preamble. "Begin evacuation of your orbital stations. This is going to get messy. Commander, there are 300 swarm vessels approaching. You have 62 ships. The mathematics are not favorable. Grant smiled, and there was something in that expression that made Telos's chitin itch. You're thinking about this wrong. We're not here to win a ship-to-ship engagement. We're here to kill every single one of those things. The swarm arrived in a wave of chittering biomatter and hunger. Their vessels pulsing with organic weapons that could dissolve hulls and turn crews into nutrients. They had destroyed the Verith defensive fleet in hours. They expected to do the same to the human force, and then feast on the world below. They were not prepared for. Earth's Deathworlders. The human ships moved like nothing the swarm had encountered before. Where other species fled from the swarm's acid weapons and boarding drones, the humans charged straight into the densest formations. Their vessels spun and dove with reflexes that seemed impossible for beings in high-gravity environments, because they evolved in high-gravity environments. Because their homeworld was a catalog of natural disasters that had forged them into something the peaceful species of the Council could barely comprehend. Commander Grant's flagship, the Indomitable, rammed straight through a swarm bio-cruiser, its reinforced prow tearing the organic vessel in half. Missiles streaked from human destroyers, each warhead loaded with incendiary compounds that burned through the swarm's chitinous hulls like acid through flesh. Where the swarm tried to board human vessels, they found Marines waiting in sealed corridors. Humans in powered armor who fought with a ferocity that shocked the hive mind into hesitation. The Krindaks had never hesitated before, but they had never fought humans before, never encountered a species that had clawed its way up from a world where nearly everything was trying to kill them, a species that saw the swarm's preferred tactic of boarding and consumption not as terrifying but as familiar. Just another predator to be put down. The battle raged for 7 hours. Human ships took terrible damage, their hulls scarred and bleeding atmosphere, but they did not retreat. When the swarm tried to break past the defensive line to reach the planet, they found human vessels already there, willing to take hits meant for the world below. 2 human destroyers were lost. 38 crew died when a swarm bioweapon breached their hull. But for every human ship damaged, 10 swarm vessels died. 50. The Krindaks, for the first time in 300 cycles, broke formation. The hive mind that had consumed countless worlds felt something it had not experienced in living memory: doubt. These small creatures from this insignificant species fought like the swarm itself. With absolute commitment and no fear of death, the swarm withdrew, leaving behind the wreckage of 2/3 of its invasion force. The humans did not pursue. They had not come to conquer. They had come to defend. Telos stood in the command center, watching the human fleet maintain its position, even after the swarm vanished into deep space. His people were safe. His world survived. Because the humans had come when no one else would. Commander Grant's face appeared on his screen again. She looked exhausted, a dark bruise forming on one cheek and her armor scorched in places. "The swarm is in retreat," she said. "We will maintain position for another 48 hours to ensure they don't return. After that, we will leave repair drones and technical support for your orbital infrastructure." "Why?" Telos asked. The question encompassed everything. Why had they come? Why had they fought so hard? Why had they risked their entire species for strangers? Grant was quiet for a moment. "Because you asked for help. Where we come from, that matters. Maybe it should matter everywhere." News of the Battle of Verith spread through the Council faster than the original distress signal. When Ambassador Cole returned to the Council chamber, the other delegates no longer laughed. They stood in silence as he walked to the human section, their various expressions impossible to read, but their body language speaking volumes. The Drexian ambassador approached him after the session. "Your species lost 43 people defending the Verith. Was it worth the price?" Cole looked at her steadily. "You have the luxury of asking that question, because your species has never had to fight for survival the way we did. Yes, it was worth it. Because next time, maybe you will remember what happened here. Maybe next time, when someone calls for help, more than just humanity will answer. 3 cycles later, when the Kryndak swarm attacked the Drexian colonies, they found not only human ships waiting in defense, but vessels from 7 other Council species who had finally remembered what honor meant. The swarm was driven back again, this time permanently, their hive mind, fractured by the realization that the galaxy had changed. The age of looking away while others suffered had ended. Earth's Deathworlders had shown them a different path, and the Council, slowly and reluctantly, began to follow. If you enjoyed this video, consider supporting us with super thanks. Your support helps us create more great content. Thank you.